Hey Narwhals, and welcome back to some more weight loss stories. Only a small percentage of our viewers actually subscribe. It's free and you can always change your mind later, so please tap subscribe to join the original 100k Narwhals. Benefits I didn't expect: quitting sugar. I've been a sugar addict all my life without even knowing it was a thing. Quitting sugar was a journey, and here's the top 6 things I'm surprised about in my sugarless journey. Also, sorry, English is not my first language. 1. Migraines. It's the first thing I noticed. I don't have them anymore. From a young age until now, I suffer migraines at least once a month. One time after quitting sugar, I ate a handful of gummy bears, and 2 hours later, I had the worst headache ever, lost vision. This particular incident made me realize sugar wasn't for me anymore. 2. Acne. I spent a ton of money on skincare products and still have pimples at 34 years old. Since I stopped sugar, my face cleared itself. It took about 3 months. 3. Energy. I was the kind of person to fall asleep at 8 p.m. with the kids, wake up tired every morning. Early on, I realized that all my energy was back. I can achieve so much more things in a day. I wake up fresh as a rose every morning, and I need 7 to 8 hours of sleep to feel good instead of 10 to 12. 4. Mood. I feel so much better now. I'm genuinely happier. I think having more energy to do stuff to make you feel good about yourself is related. I look at myself in the mirror and I feel empowered and beautiful. I feel I take care of myself every day, choosing food without sugar. 5. Cravings. I feel I need less food to feel full. It's weird. I thought I would crave for sugary drinks, fizzy drinks, like alcoholic drinks were my absolute favorite drink, and I don't miss it. Every evening I would snack before bedtime, but I don't anymore, and it is not hard at all. I don't think about it anymore. 6. Taste. My taste changed. For example, I never liked lettuce. For me, it was tasteless and boring. Why would someone eat cow food? But now I can taste it. It's sweet, it's fresh, and at the same time a bit bitter. I can now taste better everything I eat. I'm surprised about this one. I hope my story can motivate you on your journey without sugar. Have a wonderful day. It's disgusting how ubiquitous sugar is. For those trying to quit, it's a pain in the friggin' butt, especially since it's available in every store imaginable. The stores intentionally put candy at the cashier aisle because we depleted part of our willpower reserves making choices on what to buy. Finishing my last semester in college, the place I live at has a cafeteria that practically flaunts sugar and carb-rich foods, often poisoning a perfectly good food item with a sweet glaze to make it more palatable. The previous generation has essentially brainwashed us. Our parents have taught us to associate sugar with being loved, with entitlement to a reward after some insignificant accomplishment. Any event in life that is considered remotely pleasant is garnished with stuff that hijacks our reward systems, and we're expected to just cave in to every single extenuating circumstance imaginable just so we won't miss out. The refined carbohydrate is one of the most abominable creations man has ever created. It bypasses millions of years of human evolution, bypassing satiety mechanisms that took eons to perfect. I pity all the people who dismiss my permanent abstinence with cries of, "I just can't live without sugar," not being able to imagine a world without something that slowly but surely kills you via subtle cluster frigging of hormone balances. And I pity my relatives, my elderly mom included, who fail to understand just how subtly sugar is unraveling their body into decay and corpulence, instead hoping that Western medicine solves all their problems, relegating the burden of their easily mitigable suffering to the taxpayer. But perhaps the most disgusting thing about it is observing a child becoming initiated into this world of dragon chasing. Imagine knowing how bad this poison is, seeing a child first take a bite into his birthday cake, never having eaten sugary ambrosia before. How could one not retch at seeing his eyes widen out of ecstasy, his consciousness being present in a completely different dimension, his fate damned to a life of unfulfilled hedonism and roller coasters of suffering? Every time the blindly emotional part of my brain wants me to give in, I remind myself just how addicted I truly am, just how frigged it is that I want myself to fall back into this vicious cycle of self-hatred and almost complete lack of focus. I am desiring something that the Lord himself would call an abomination, and I know that when the sweet draught of Coca-Cola touches my lips, I will obtain nothing but transient happiness, and then I will become a half-life again. Beautifully and very eloquently put. What bothers me especially is how sugar has crept its way into everything. People add it to as much as they can as to satisfy people's sugar cravings. Some pasta sauces have 16 grams of added sugar per serving. The so-called health foods are often still loaded with refined sugars and get away with it because they maintain that as sugar is still a natural substance. People add sugar unnecessarily into pizza bases, bread, cheese, spices, and even to table salt sometimes. The industries literally do this so that the addictive sugar in the product makes us keep buying their brand over and over and craving it. It's disgusting and honestly appalls me. I have to religiously check the ingredients on everything. Products I used to think were fine presented me with nasty surprise in the ingredients. I'm wary when eating out and have to think very carefully about what I'm going to order. Basically, you're completely right. Sugar is everywhere, and it's a nightmare to avoid it. Sugar-free didn't solve my life. A counter-narrative. Hey, I went sugar-free back in January 2020 and never got around to posting my experience. I didn't consume any added sugar, alcohol, or natural/unnatural sweeteners. I did consume fruit, carbs, or foods containing naturally occurring sugars as listed on food labels. Here's what I wrote from back then. Note, if you're truly devoted to a no-sugar life, the following could potentially be triggering for you. If you're concerned, skip it and continue on your sugar-free journey. You are a strong and sensitive Japanese dwarf flying squirrel that can do anything you want. I also acknowledge that I'm lucky to have grown up with a relatively healthy relationship with food, intuitive eating behaviors, and a healthy BMI. As with everything, your mileage may vary. My experience is not a critique of anything eating less sugar in general. Still, I want to post this because I think it's important for people to know that, like for me, cutting sugar out might not be the cure-all they hoped it would be. I feel like the internet is flooded with accounts of how quitting sugar helped people lose 50 pounds, cure their acne, banish their depression, pay their child support, find Carol Baskin's first husband, and so forth. But as I end 1 month sugar-free, that hasn't been my experience, and I want to put this out there for anyone else who's in the same boat and feels like they're crazy. My cravings remained. I wouldn't describe them as I'm having a headache, I'll die without a Coke craving, but many people seem to describe that after a few days or a few weeks without sugar, they simply stopped wanting it. Not me. I was always aware, if not desperately aware, of how much better a food would taste if I had just a little bit of sugar. Food became boring and unsatisfying. I enjoy oatmeal with fruit, as I always have, but my love of cold cereal and milk has evaporated. Sauces that get their vavavoom from a bit of sugar, marinades, gochujang, fish sheared with miso and brown sugar are joyless. Salmon nose rat claims that all I need is salt, fat, acid, and heat, but I've never been a big salt and vinegar fan, and all the sugar-free spices and flavorings I've tried taste black and white. I gained 4 pounds because I couldn't eat the foods that satisfy me. I used to snack on things like a bowl of Casey cereal, a block of chocolate, peanut butter-filled pretzels, 2 grams of added sugar, none of which were terribly sugary. Because I couldn't have them, I pigged out on salty nuts and chip snacks to fill the weeping hole left by the sweeter foods I actually wanted. I exercise 5 to 7 days a week and work an active job on my feet and still gained weight. Going out to restaurants and being social was a drag. People can't not make no sugar a big deal. Either they're fawning over you about if you're okay not eating/drinking, or they're interrogating you about your restrictions, your rationale, etc. A number of times I went out with friends only to have them well-intentionally yet annoyingly talk over me to the tune of, "Oh, we can't go there, they can't eat sugar." I felt uncomfortably mothered. Or the no-sugar mocktails I ordered kept being made with sweetened fruit juice. I accidentally cheated once or twice there. I straight up couldn't refuse when my Jewish friend brought over some challah made special by a family friend. I think it was the only time I intentionally cheated. I ate a slice of that sweet challah with butter, and it was frigging amazing. I think I knew for sure then that a sugar-free lifestyle was not on my cards. I can't sense any improvements to my health. Sleep, energy levels, digestion, focused skin, and none of this has improved or changed at all as far as I can tell. Perhaps that means I wasn't overindulging on sugar to begin with. True enough, I rarely consume juice, soda, or processed foods. Maybe every other day I eat my 8 grams of sugar or less cereal and a small dessert or pastry once a week. I don't binge on fruit, processed carbs, or dairy either. I do think this experiment was valuable for me to realize just how much sugar is in processed foods. Being forced to examine every food label taught me that every grocery aisle is lined with sugary products, from tomato sauce to hot dogs, even my favorite spicy almonds. I'm grateful that I seem to have a healthy enough relationship with sugar that I can consume it without going overboard, because I think it would be difficult to keep this up for life, at least for me. I love food, and I loved it a lot less this past month, which just isn't how I want to live. Hopefully this resonates with someone, that maybe you don't need to eliminate sugar, but just cut it down. Stop drinking soda, but keep your Panda Puffs. Commit to sugar-free sauces or snacks so that you can enjoy your vodka crayons. Savor your own homemade sweets, but give most of them to the neighbors and coworkers. I followed most of these habits before I went sugar-free anyway, so I imagine I'll find them much easier to maintain long-term. I'm sugar and carb free, and that 100% helps a lot. Carbs break down to sugar too. Everyone begins with cutting down on sweetened drinks and desserts, but eventually, once you get used to not having them, they don't even really appeal to you anymore. The thought of sweetened drinks and desserts sounds too sweet. But going sugarless without an alternative in the long run is not very sustainable, so you gotta incorporate some safe artificial sweeteners like monk fruit, xylitol, and stevia. I hardly eat desserts, but I still need stevia to sweeten my coffee, and I eat a lot of xylitol gum when I feel I need something sweet after a meal. They're good for your teeth too. I pack stevia with me too when I order beverages outside. I don't split hairs over sugar in places where it seems impractical or too inconsequential to avoid. Example, sugar and the gochujang I cook with frequently. I just avoid it as much as I can. Carb and sugar-free makes a huge difference in my mood, weight maintenance, and energy, and it's just way too much for me to want to give that up. I've given in to the old ways of eating a few times to experiment, and it always makes me feel like crap, and I feel much better once I cut sugar and carbs again. If you didn't have a problem with sugar already, then obviously giving up added sugar won't change much. Weight change, 1 liter of water is 2.2 pounds. It's not hard to drink 4 liters in a day, so your 4-pound gain is neither here nor there, especially over a month. Cravings, you cited you already had a fairly healthy relationship with food, but also not giving up naturally occurring sugar. You can still have and sustain a high sugar diet with only all natural sugars. You couldn't go out without your friends being concerned about your sugar-free diet? Holy crap, who are your friends and how do the rest of us get them? Considering you had no problems with natural sugars, there should have been plenty of options. I hate to be negative, but you don't sound like sugar-free is a relevant lifestyle for you. I agree with everything you said, but I do think that this post is very valuable. I think it's important that people don't go into the sugar-free lifestyle with too high expectations. I have an unhealthy relationship with food, and going sugar-free helped me to start eating only when I was hungry and lowered my cravings substantially. However, I never experienced the energy boost, better skin, or other positives that other people talk about so much. The realization that all those problems weren't going away, coupled with the fact that going sugar-free is a big hassle in my everyday life, made me give it up. I think if I had more realistic expectations, then I wouldn't have ended giving it up. And that brings us to the end, Narwhals. And please tap subscribe to join the original 100k Narwhals. And lastly, here's our featured Narwhal of the Day. 50 pounds down. Thanks, Luke, for the constant encouragement.